All right, guys, so here's another video of us staring at a computer screen here. And what we're going to be discussing today is hops, and we're going to figure out what they are and how to use them responsibly. So hops are what really make this mesh network perform well, but it can also cause some problems. So understanding how to set them up and what a hop does and what its functions and features are is kind of the root to this whole thing. So we're going to start pretty simple. I want to say doing these graphics for this actually had some prep work in it, and that we made these graphics, and it took us probably about 45 minutes to realize that we couldn't do this on a computer anymore. Back in the 90s, you used to be able to do this really easy on a computer. We just copy and paste a photo of something, and apparently you can't do that anymore. So my daughter helped me make these slides, or make these graphics on her phone. So thank you to Lena for helping me out with this. So what we have here on the screen is just a graphical representation of probably a typical mesh network, probably your mesh network that you're running, where you have some nodes that are in a house. Maybe it's a farmland, possibly you're hiking somewhere, something along those lines, and all these nodes can see each other, meaning that this node can see this node, can see this node, and it can see this node, and it doesn't actually have to hop anything. It doesn't go through a node to get to another node. So like I said, this would be standard, maybe a small area, 4 nodes, maybe more, but either case they can all see each other. This is what's known as a zero hop. This doesn't require any hops. So if you have a couple nodes, 2 nodes, 4 nodes, 7 nodes, and they're all in the same house, your kids in the backyard, you're hiking somewhere, all your family has them, and you're all within 12 feet of each other, maybe somebody's in the tent, these nodes can all see each other. If you're defaulted and you're set at 3 hops, what's happening is when a node like this one sends payload out. Now by payload, it could be data that contains telemetries, weather data, messages, GPS, whatever. It's payload. When I say payload, you can in your mind just imagine whatever you want. Anyways, when it sends this payload out, each node gets that payload. Okay, so this node sends it, and all 3 of these receive it, because this node is seen by these 3 nodes. With that being said, this node is then going to take that and it's going to hop it, and it's going to take a count away when it hops it. So if yours is set at 3, this one transmits the payload. These 3 will receive the payload. When these 3 receive the payload, they're going to wait for the channel to become clear, because they're not going to transmit while there's another one transmitting. It's like a busy channel lockout on a radio. These have that built into it so that you don't crash packets. So this one's going to then transmit that same data that these ones have already seen, but it's going to transmit it, and when it does, it's going to take away 1. So that count is going to go from 3 down to 2. So now these ones here are going to get it, and they're going to go, oh, 2, I got to hop this twice. So now they're going to send it back out, and this one's going to send it back out, and then once they all receive it again, then it's going to bring that count down to 1. And then they're going to repeat, and they're going to send the same information back to each of them again, and 1 goes down to 0. So they're only going to do that 1 more time. So do you need all that? No. What you're doing is you're tying up airtime. Your channel utilization goes through the roof, because you're using so much channel, so much bandwidth just to send the same thing that everything's already seen. And because you're transmitting more often, you're using more battery, so your battery's not being used efficiently. So this is kind of the bad things that can happen if you are running a 3 hop where you should be having a 0 hop. So again, if all your nodes can see each other, you 0 hop. Now, if you're not sure if these nodes can see each other, you can do trace route, and trace route will tell you, like for example, you trace route from this node to this node, and and it'll tell you direct, or it'll say one hop, or whatever the case being. But I'd probably say 90% of the people that are using Meshtastic are using it in 0 hop, and they're probably pushing 3 hops, and they're wondering why they get crappy battery life and things like that. And this is exactly why. So just food for thought. Now take a sip of my coffee here because it's currently 2 minutes to it's almost 12:30, and I'm still recording video. So let's take it up a little notch here, and I apologize for this next one. I forgot to tell my daughter to add a graphic in the middle here. So this is my computer skill right here. This is the kind of stuff that I can do, because I'm very talented when it comes to this graphic stuff. So this is me. I forgot to tell her to put a note there. But anyways, what we have here is we have a 0 hop mesh network here. So these ones can all see each other, and these ones here can all see each other. But these 2 mesh networks cannot see each other. So maybe you can imagine that this is a valley, this is a valley, and there's a mountain in the middle. And here we have a node on the top of the mountain. And this node can see both networks, but the networks can't see each other. So what we would do is, again, this guy here sends payload, all these ones get it. But because these ones can see this one, this is 0 hop. So now what we need is 1 hop to go from here to here. So if this is a more accurate representation of your network, or like I said, you're connecting 2 towns and there's a mountain in the middle and there's a valley on each side, or maybe 2 buildings that can't see each other, or whatever the case being, this is an example of a 1 hop. So anything more than that, what'll happen is, now let's say you're running default with 3 hops. This guy here sends it out, and this one here sees it, sends it out again, and that count goes down to 2. These ones here send it back. Now, because these ones can't see these ones, it's not going to know if one of these is transmitting or if one of these is transmitting. So there's a chance that when this one sends, this one's also sending, and you're going to have 2 packets coming at two radio transmissions basically coming at this single receiver right here, and your packets are going to crash and they're going to lose it. I hope everybody understood that. I hope I explained it right. So this is where having 2, you can limit that possibility by just decreasing your airtime. You want these things to just get on the air, send it, and get off the air, and that's going to decrease the chance that you crash packets, especially when you have a setup like this where these nodes can't see these nodes. That means that these nodes don't know when these ones are transmitting, and everything's going to eventually crash when it hits here. Okay, so 1 node would be good, or I'm sorry, 1 hop would be good for a setup similar to this. Now let's go kind of crazy here. Let's do this one. Again, this is my handiwork. You see my blue line here. So what the blue line is these nodes can see each other. So this node can see this node, and this node can see this node, and these 2 nodes can see each other. But these 3 nodes here cannot see this node or any of these nodes, and these 3 nodes here can't see this node or any of these nodes. Okay? Alright, so what happens here? This guy up here sends payload. It's received by this node, and this node, and this node. This node then hops it to this node here. That's 1 hop. This node then hops it to this node. That's 2 hops. This node here hops it to this node here. 3 hops. And then this one hops it to these 3 here. This is 4 hops. Okay. Now, what's going to happen is, again, if you don't have it set high enough, it's only going to make it this far. If you have it at 3, it's going to go 1, 2, and then 3. This one's going to get 0, and it's not going to send it out again. That means that this guy here is never going to hear it, and that means that these guys here are never going to hear it. So we need a 4 hop on this one. Again, you run that risk if you go over that of these ones sending it back, and these start hopping that same thing back through the network while one of these now decides that it's going to send out, its battery level, some telemetry thing, and it's going to come back, and it's eventually going to meet here in the middle somewhere, and you're going to crash packets because you're going to have 2 different nodes transmitting, and the one that's trying to receive it is not going to be able to. Okay, so this is an example of where you would need more hops, and obviously this one's pretty sick. I mean, you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 different mesh networks that are together. I believe the database that holds the node information. So like when you look at your Meshtastic and you can load all the nodes you're connected to, it gives you like a node count. I believe that can only handle like somewhere between 80 and 85 nodes. So it just runs out of memory, and then the last one out, the last one to talk, the oldest one is going to get rewritten over by something new that comes in because they just lack memory. So that's this is a pretty sick network. So there's one more thing here that I want to just cover really fast. Some of you may be into it, some of you may not even know that it exists, but whatever the case being, our MQTT. Can I get that? Wow, that's cool. Okay, right there. So MQTT. I'm not going to go too much into it in this video because, again, this video is on hops. We'll talk more MQTT another time, but we have Nova Radio Systems has we created a MQTT broker, probably more commonly known as a server, and it's strictly for running your T-beams. Meshtastic does have an official one. It's like mqtt.meshtastic.org. It's defaulted into your firmware and your software when you flash it. You can change that, and for example, if you put it on ours, there's more information on novaradiosystems.com/mesh. Again, we haven't really. This is the first time we've ever mentioned it, so nobody knows it exists. If you guys already know how to do the whole mesh. Or that's the whole MQTT setup thing. You can go ahead and go over to novaradiosystems.com/mesh and get the info on the user and stuff like that to put in. And what we want to do is we want to make it more localized versus the official Meshtastic MQTT broker is like global. So like again, you can only have 80 to 85 nodes per device. Per network, so we want to more localize it so that you can find like-minded people in your neighborhood. So we're doing it by state instead of globally, right? So you would actually subscribe to a state, a topic, which would be a state, and then let's say you're in Florida. Anybody else in Florida could go into this state, and now the networks in Florida can talk to one another via MQTT. So forget that. That's what our thing is. We'll talk about that another time. So back to the hops. So we have our mesh network up here that has a 5th node. This 5th node is connected to the MQTT, which is also known as a gateway node. So this gateway node can be seen by these 4, and it's also connected to the internet and connected to the broker, whoever's broker it is. And then we have the same thing down here. This is a huge area in between. Let's say this is Northern California, and this here is Southern California. We don't have enough nodes to cover from Southern California to Northern California, so to connect these 2 mesh networks, we're going to use the MQTT broker. Who's ever. What happens here is when this node sends out payload, because these are all 0 hop, and These two are connected via MQTT. These kind of act as one node. It isn't like RF where this is a hop to this. This is a single hop, okay? So in this case, if this payload here, if this node sends out payload, it's going to zero hop it to here. This one is not going to hop it because it's connected via MQTT and not RF, and it's simply going to hop it one time, and that's going to cover this network, this mesh network. So this would only take one hop. So again, if we were in Northern California and we wanted to get to Southern California and we were connected via an MQTT broker with two gateway nodes, this gateway node belongs to this mesh, this gateway node belongs to this mesh. They are both zero hop mesh networks. This would only take one hop. And again, if you had more hops, you're just tying up battery because everybody's already seen that message once and they don't really need to see it again, and they don't need to rebroadcast it again, and you're just chewing up, you know, vital battery power and everything else. So that is a basic rundown of how your Meshtastic uses hops and how you should use hops when you set up your particular network. So I hope that cleared up a bunch of things. And like I said, our MQTT broker and the instructions on, you know, the different things can be found at novaradiosystems.com/mesh. And we don't want any money. We don't want, it's nothing like that. We don't make money on this at all. These videos, I know, even when I watch a video, I see ads, and I don't know who gets that money for that ad, but it ain't me. So don't think I'm out here because I'm going to retire on an island or anything like that. This is just to help you guys out and you know, get the most out of what we can do with this. And kind of there's a lot more explanation as why we have our MQTT browser, our broker, our personal one. And you know, if you guys agree, you think it's a good idea, go ahead and use it. It's free. Till next time.